I think it worked.
I'm gonna check it now. Yeah, it's on it. It's on it.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So tonight we're going to start a Dars al-Sabit, the seventh lesson, which is on page 207, which is Arkan al-Salah, the pillars of the Salah. And we already finished. We finished the conditions of the Salah, the shurut al-Salah, right? Which is how many conditions for the Salah. Number one, a condition means what? If it's a condition for the Salah, then how does it affect the Salah? It's a prerequisite, which is what? Something that has to be done before you can do something else. So the conditions have to be done before the Salah, right? The conditions have to be done before we can even pray. Start the Salah, we have conditions that have to be done. Tayyib, how many things have to be done before we can pray? How many conditions are there? Some say 9, some say 6. Let's say the safe route is 9. Let's say 9 things we got to do before we can even start the Salah. Tayyib, that's important to know because the shurut are kharij al-Salah. They're not a part of the prayer. Everything we did so far from the conditions of the Salah, none of that is part of the Salah itself. You with me? Tayyib. Whereas the pillars for tonight are a part of the prayer. These things are actual part of the Salah. So that's one difference between a condition and a pillar. A shart and a rukn. That's one difference between a shart and a rukn. That a rukn, a shart, a condition is before the Salah. It's not a part of the Salah. And a pillar is in the Salah and it's a part of the Salah. That's one difference. Clear? Tayyib. Another difference is that the pillars, how many are they? I'm sorry, the conditions. 9 conditions are continuous throughout the prayer. Those 9 conditions that we spoke about, they have to be continuous from the beginning of the prayer to the end of the prayer. Clear? Whereas what we're going to do today, they are a part of the prayer, but for lack of better words, they come and they go. You're not going to do just one throughout. One pillar doesn't stretch through the whole prayer. Okay? Tayyib. On 207, he lists them, and then it starts on 208, if you have the book. Tayyib. And the first thing that the Shaykh rahimahullah, he does is he defines a pillar. What is a rukn? Huwa janibu shay al-aqwa alladhi la qiyama lahu illa alayh. It is the strongest side, and this is, if you have the book, you might want to underline this to make sure you know the definition of a pillar. A pillar is the strong side of a thing that must be in place for the thing to be established. The strong side of something that has to be there for the thing to stand. It's not going to stand, right? Like a building. They always use the example of a building. A building has pillars in it. The pillars for this building is one up there in the corner. That's one of them. And there's more. That the building can't stand unless it has something to hold it up. Right? It's like we have pillars of Islam. Right? So the strongest side of something that The thing, it must be in place for the thing to be established. If the pillar is removed, the action is invalid. If the pillar is removed, the action is invalid. And this is important when it comes to the pillars. Tayyib. So in the salat is broken down into statements, things that we say, and things that we do. Right? We say some things, we do some things. Those statements and those actions that we do, the sayings that we say and the actions that we do, those statements and actions are broken up in the categories themselves. Clear? The first category is what we're doing today, the pillars, arkan. And these pillars, they're not excusable. There's no way you can miss this pillar and your salat be valid. Clear? The pillar is no way you can miss it and the salat be valid. They're not excusable. That's why he says, La yaskut amdan wala sahwan wala jahlan. They say the pillar, it doesn't, you're not excused from it. Not if you intentionally do it, it's not an excuse. Not if you forgetfully do it, that's not an excuse. Or maybe a person just didn't know that was a pillar, so they didn't do it. That's not an excuse. The pillars never drop off. Clear? The second group, which is going to come later, is what's called those things that are, they call them wajibat, obligatory. And they use these names specifically here and when you're talking about the actions in the statement of the prayer. Of course, there are other things in Islam that are obligatory, and this obligatory is used in this chapter specifically as a difference between a pillar and the next level. And then there's another level, another section, which are sunnah, recommended things to do in the salah. They all have a definition. We're going to get to all of them. What's the benefit of knowing the difference between a pillar, something obligatory in the salat, and something that is a sunnah recommended in the salat? Again?
They all require something different if they're missed.
They all require something different if they're missed. Elaborate.
It's a pillar, it's a different required. You have to do something else to fix it. If it's an obligation, you have to do something different to fix it. If it's a sunnah,
Jay. In order to fix it, if you miss it, if you miss a pillar, there's a way to fix it. And if you miss something that is obligatory, it's a way to fix it. Clear? So the benefit of knowing the difference between the pillars is what? Not so we say, oh, that's only recommended, I'm not going to do that one. That's not, is that going to invalidate I ain't going to do it. No. If I make a mistake, how do I fix it? Clear? If I make a mistake, how am I supposed to fix the mistake? In order to fix the mistake, these are super important. It's going to be difficult to fix a mistake if you don't know where the mistake falls. How important is the mistake that you made, basically? Some mistakes are more severe than others. Some mistakes are more severe than others. Some mistakes can invalidate the whole prayer, while some mistakes might just remove the reward. You might not get as much reward for the prayer. So that's from the benefits of knowing the difference between the pillars and the obligations and the sunnah, the recommended acts. Number one, how many conditions, y'all? 9. How many pillars? 14. 14 pillars. 14 pillars, they all fall under the same definition. They're not excusable. You can't miss them. If you do miss them, you got to fix it. How many? 14 things that can't be missed. 14 things that are not excusable. If I forget, I didn't know that was a pillar, right? Or intentionally, not excused. Does anybody know the dalil for the 14 pillars? We got. Well, let me rephrase the question. Does anybody know the hadith that mentions the 14 pillars? It mentions all 14. Not all 14. It's a collect. It's important to know if you look for the one hadith or one verse with all 14, you're not going to find it. So now the question is, how do we know that all 14 are from the pillars? How do the ulama come up and say, well, the pillars are 14? They use what's called al-istiqra, right? And Sheikh Abdul Razak spoke about that before earlier, I think in Shurut al-Salat or Shurut al-Shahada, if I'm not mistaken. Shurut la ilaha illallah. Al-istiqra is that the ulama, the scholars, they do extensive research covering surrounding the issue. Remember that? They do extensive research surrounding the issue, and at the end they say, okay, these things can be considered from the pillars. So it's not like you're going to find one hadith in Sahih Bukhari that has all 14, right? Or a verse that says all 14. Clear? But it's done with bil istiqra, by research surrounding the issue in all areas, extensive research, right? It's easy for us now. Research for us is what? Google. So I did my research on it. Where you look? I was Googling all morning, right? And you push Google, pillars of the Salat, and it comes up 14. MashaAllah. All right? We got to understand that the scholars of Islam did not operate like that. There was a point where the books that they were using maybe didn't have page numbers. If we want a book, what we got to do? Say you got a book and they sold out, but I want that book. What do I do? Maybe PDF. They don't have it online. There's no more print, no more copy, no more copies that they're selling. I could possibly photocopy, right? You know what the ulama had to do? Huh? If they wanted the book, you know what they did? They went to the person, they sat down, they wrote the book by hand from front to the back. Clear? Allahu Akbar. We PDF in, and we got tons of PDFs. Allah alam if we even using them, right? They go sit, not go take my book and go wherever you can. No. You sit here and you write, and you stay there writing until he's finished, and then he leaves, right? Allah musta'an. So bil istiqra is that they did extensive research through the Quran and the Sunnah to find out that these things fit the description of a pillar. He says al-awwal al-qiyamu ma'al-qudra, to stand. A pillar of the prayer is to stand if a person has the ability to stand. To stand if a person has the ability to stand. Clear? He says, فَمَنْ كَانَ قَادِرًا عَلَى الْقِيَامِ وَصَلَّى الصَّلَاةَ الْمَكْتُوبَةَ جَالِسًا لَمْ تَسِّ صَلَاتُهُ. He says, whoever has the ability to stand up, and then they pray one of the obligatory prayers sitting down, and the salat is not valid. Whoever has the ability to stand, and they pray the obligatory prayer sitting down, the salat is not valid. If they have what? The ability to stand, y'all. It says al-qudra, al-qiyam al-qudra. This should be clear. Standing during prayers if one is able to do so. So that means if one is not able to do so, can they sit? They can sit if they're not able to stand. And then he brings ayat from the Quran proving the permissibility or the obligation of standing. In the first ayah where Allah says, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, in Surah Al-Baqarah. It says, and stand before Allah devoutly obedient. And stand before Allah devoutly obedient. How do we know that it becomes a pillar from this? Jade. It's a command from Allah. And stand. وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ. And stand is a fi'l amr. It's a command from Allah. And the origin is that if Allah commands to do something, or the Prophet ﷺ commands to do something, the asl is that it is obligatory. It's wajib. Tayyib. I will hopefully, I guess. Allah is better, y'all. It's better It's better. I'm saying it's better if you can read the verse and understand the verse in Arabic. It's better. It's clearer, more clear. And it makes more sense when it comes to dalil. How is that a proof and things like that? Yes.
What's the version?
Al-Baqarah 238. Also, the proof for standing is a hadith of the man who prayed badly, as it's called. And that's the hadith that you were talking about, where the man prayed wrong. He prayed incorrectly 3 times. And he said, this is all I know. In that hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا قُمْتَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَكَبِّرْ. فَكَبِّرْ. When you stand to pray, then say, Allahu Akbar. فَكَبِّرْ. طيب. Clear? Another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, صَلِّ قَائِمًا فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِيعْ فَقَاعِدًا. He said, pray, it's a fi'l amr, it's a command. Pray standing up. The command is to pray standing up. Right? And if you're not able to stand and pray, sitting down. If you're not able to stand. So the origin is that when we pray standing. In order to sit down, what do we need? A reason. What kind of reason? An Islamic reason. A valid reason. A valid reason to sit down. طيب. We got to remember, Islam, at no time does the salat just disappear from our obligations. And that's why there's a fear for prayer. I mean, there's a prayer for fear. Even if people are fighting in a war, there's a prayer and it's a way to pray. How about if we sitting in the comfort of our own houses or wherever we at, comfortable or uncomfortable, nobody's shooting at us, right? That we still are commanded to stand unless we have reason not to stand. طيب. So the Prophet ﷺ gave us the command to stand, and if we're not able to stand, then we are to sit. طيب. And what if you're not able to sit? You lay down and pray. There's always a way to pray.
I got a question about that. Thinking about standing, how personal to me. So what if, like you're standing, but you feel though that you go down, like say you praying the Isha, you're like, I'm not gonna make it. I might get 1 or 2 in. I'm not gonna make the rest. You physically weak. Should you just sit, or should you pray as much as you can, and then you feel when you reach that limit, you can't continue with it and sit down?
Jade, that's a good question. And the answer to that question is the last verse that he mentions in this whole section. You should fear Allah the best of the ability. And then he brings a whole paragraph after that on page 209, a whole paragraph discussing that exact issue. And he summarizes it, and he says basically, it's important to pay attention that a person to come in the masjid walking, come have a whole conversation with somebody, grab a chair, walk over to the spot, pick up the chair, walk over to the spot they're going to pray at. Right? Then when it comes time for the salat, they sit down and say Allahu Akbar. Does the person have the ability to stand? No. They got the ability to stand. Should they be sitting down saying Allahu Akbar? If they can stand? When do you sit down, y'all? When you have to. You sit down when you have to sit down. The origin of us praying is not we sit down. We sit down because we're forced to sit down. Something is making us, is not allowing us to physically be able to stand and fulfill the obligation, so we sit. And that's the example that he gave in that paragraph. He said a person will come to the masjid, they walk around the masjid, they come grab a chair, maybe go whatever they're going to do, talk to somebody, have a whole conversation standing up. Grab a chair, move over, pick the spot they're going to pray at, grab their spot, right? Then when it comes time for the salat, they sit down and say Allahu Akbar, right? Are they able to stand? If they're able to stand, then they should be standing. And then he brings the exact point. When they feel like they can no longer stand, then they sit. It's like the Prophet ﷺ said. If you're not able to stand, then you sit when you're not able to. Not the usle is not that I'm gonna just sit down for all of them. You sit down when you have to sit down. طيب. So the first pillar that can't be missed is standing. The second pillar, الركن الثاني من أركان الصلاة تكبيرة الإحرام. The تكبيرة الإحرام. Everybody know the تكبيرة الإحرام is what? The first opening takbir. The opening takbir is called تكبيرة الإحرام. This is important, y'all. After we say Allahu Akbar on the first takbir to start the salat, the intention has to be to start the salat, which is an issue when it comes to we come into the salat late. We come to the salat and the imam is in ruku already. So we trying to do what? We trying to catch it. So we don't put our shoes in the proper place and none of that. Kick the shoes off. We know we ain't supposed to run, but we walking fast, right? Trying to catch the rak'ah. Tayyib. When we say Allahu Akbar, what are we doing? The takbir, the Allahu Akbar is to begin the prayer, right? That Allahu Akbar should not be, the intention for Allahu Akbar should be to start the salat, not the takbir to go into ruku'. Clear? There's a takbir to start the salat, Allahu Akbar, and then there's another takbir to go into ruku'. How are you going into ruku' if you never started the prayer? Tayyib, takbirat al-ihram is to start the prayer. Now, it's possible by the time you say Allahu Akbar, the imam comes back up. Alhamdulillah. Then you miss the rak'ah. You make it up, right? But when we rushing, like we're not supposed to do, right? Then the brain is, and you end up doing something to throw the prayer off, right? Tayyib, the takbirat al-ihram. And there's many reasons they call it takbirat al-ihram. But as he says here, لأنها مفتاح الصلاة. It is the opening of the salat. أولها ومدخل إليها. It is the first thing regarding the prayer, which a person begins the prayer with that. With what? Allahu Akbar. So a person does not start the prayer except that they say Allahu Akbar. Remember, y'all, the takbirat al-ihram is the statement. Yes.
Getting back to the takbir when we're in the ruku. Right, before the imam comes up. So if you make the takbir and come in, and say you don't make the takbir when you go on ruku, you should make two takbirs before you come up, right? Before you said you don't. Except you in ruku.
The imam's in ruku. Yes.
Or should I say Allahu Akbar?
Yes.
Allahu Akbar, then go on ruku.
Yeah, you
so
should.
What happens if you don't?
The first takbir, you come to the imam's in ruku, which means I'm late. We got rules. We've been taught what to do when we're late. What we're not supposed to do is what? Run. We're not supposed to run. We're not supposed to rush. And if we miss a rak'ah, we're supposed to. Well, we got rules. We got things to do when we're late, so we good. We get there in the imam's in ruku', and I come to the prayer, and I'm trying to catch the rak'ah. So what do? I come, and they're in ruku' already, so I go with the intention of going into ruku'. With the intention, not to start the salat, the intention of going into ruku', because the issue is the opening takbir begins the salat. Allahu Akbar. Now there's another takbir to go into ruku' that we say also, right? The intention should be to start the prayer. How did you start the prayer? Did the prayer ever start if you never did the takbiratul ihram to start the prayer? The prayer never started. Tayyib? Yes.
Like I just did. Okay, you're on ruku. So I make the first takbir. And my intention is to come into the salat.
Yes.
Do you make another takbir to go to the ruku? Or I can just takbir to enter, the open to the salat, first takbir, and I go to the ruku, or do I have to make a second takbir?
You should make a second one. The scholars say that the second one is sunnah at that point. It's recommended to make a second one, but if a person didn't, because those takbirat outside of the first takbir come in the next chapter. The only takbir in this chapter, the takbir in this chapter is takbiratul ihram. The other takbirat that we say throughout Allahu Akbar, takbirat intiqal. Those are the takbirat we say when we move from one position to the next position. What you mean?
Because the other was like that, right?
Yeah, something to fix, y'all. You can never miss the takbirat al-ihram. And that's why it's so important. What is the takbirat al-ihram? It's the statement to say Allahu Akbar. No doubt it goes with the intention. It depends on what and it go back to the intention. If your intention is to go into the court and not to actually start the prayer, you put yourself in the gray area. The prayer has to be started with the takbir al-ihram. And some brothers will say that in the takbir, the opening takbir should be done where? How? Aloud, not Allahu Akbar, but you can't do this, y'all. You never said nothing. Even if it's Allah. We don't have to announce it to everybody, let everybody know we're there. All right. But it should be pronounced. It's a statement. How do you say something without opening your mouth? You don't. You haven't said anything. Right? But if you're rushing trying to get there, you might do anything. Right? Then you're like, damn, did I say? Sometimes we moving so fast, we don't even remember what we did when we came. Right? So the intention should be to open the salah, open the prayer, the takbir al-ihram. That's the niyyah. Then the niyyah is I'm going to start my prayer with the opening takbir. If I miss the rak'ah, y'all, I missed the rak'ah. Right? It's not like you missing the rak'ah is going to invalidate your whole prayer, but you missing the pillar could invalidate your whole prayer. It's safer. It's safer. And that comes to another issue of catching the rak'ah, which is a whole nother issue. The imam is already coming up and you didn't catch him in ruku', which is a whole nother issue. Tayyib. And he's going to get into those the takbirat from moving from one position. That's going to come in another section. Tayyib. And this is important. He says, إذا كبر من المعلوم أن المصلي إذا كبر فإنه بمجرد التكبير حرمت عليه أمور لم تكن محرمة عليه قبل الصلاة. Once we say Allahu Akbar, some things are now haram. Some things become haram. Like what? Laughing. What else? Speaking, eating, drinking, right? They become haram. Why? Because Allahu Akbar. There's nothing more important going on in the world. Nothing more important going on right now outside of this prayer. Allahu Akbar. So things that were permissible for us to do become haram for that appointed term. As the Prophet ﷺ told us. The tahrimu takbir. The tahrim, the opening of the prayer, what makes things haram that we can't eat and drink and the things that we enjoy in life, would make them haram when we start the prayer. So we don't eat and drink and laugh and talk about other things and while we are praying. Clear? طيب. طيب, that's going to come. We wait. That'll come later. But he says, فمن دخل الصلاة بدون هذه التكبيرة أو بلفظ آخر غير التكبير كالله الأعظم أو الله أجل أو نحو ذلك فإن الصلاة لا تصح. Whoever begins the prayer or whoever starts the prayer with other than Allahu Akbar. Maybe they use another one of Allah's names. Right? They say Allah Kareem. Right? They come and they say Allah Kareem. Right? If they try to start the prayer with other than the statement Allahu Akbar, the prayer is not valid. It has to be started with the statement Allahu Akbar. Clear? It's not about why would somebody do that. Who would do that? That's not going to make a difference. Whoever does it, that prayer is not valid. Yes.
So you can do it. Can you do it throughout the prayer?
Do what?
Say, Allah Kareem, or Allah by like David.
Can you do it throughout the prayer?
Like other than that,
Where are you talking about specifically? Everything out of place. Maybe a person's making dua.
Okay.
Right? But some things are like, I don't want to say, let's say the skeleton of the salah. They have to be there. And then there's additions, right? Some things we have to make sure we cover those bases first to make sure our salat is valid. And then if we like different du'as, right? A person might make a du'a in sajda, but you're not going to make that du'a in sajda before you make the dhikr for sajda. You're going to make the dhikr, the adhkar of sajda first that we have to make. And then maybe after that, you might make another du'a. So it depends on where a person does it. Tayyib. The Prophet ﷺ specified the statement Allahu Akbar. And of course, he told us in the hadith, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. Pray as you have seen me pray. Right? So, along with the other hadith, the hadith of the man who prayed badly also, he told the man, fakabbir. When you stand to pray, he said, when you stand to pray, ila salat fakabbir. Kabbir is to say Allahu Akbar, y'all. The statement Allahu Akbar is takbir. Now, what about raising the hands when we say it? Huh? Raising the hands. Is raising the hands a pillar? What's the pillar? Saying Allahu Akbar is the pillar. It doesn't mean we won't have to raise our hands. I'm gonna raise my no. We trying to do everything because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Pray as you see me, as you see me pray." All right, so we trying to do everything the Prophet ﷺ did. If a person did do that, right, and they didn't raise their hands, the question is the salat valid without raising the hands?
Yeah.
That's the question. Did they fulfill the pillar?
Yeah.
Did they miss out on some other things? Those other things that they missed out on regarding the opening takbir, does it invalidate the prayer? It doesn't invalidate the prayer. Should we be doing that?
No, I mean the thing that they missed out on.
We should be doing the stuff that they missed out on. We should be not doing the stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
You said, well, when they teach us in the Prophet's prayer, he tells you to raise your hand and say something. You say that's not a prayer to do. Prophet just stand straight and say Allah.
Yes. What is takbir? What does kabbir mean?
I'm just asking that question because you say prayers, you see me pray. When they describe it, you raise your hand.
No doubt. That's why the statements and the actions fall into different categories. Meaning, even in sajda, we have things we have to say. Right? How many times do we say it? We have to say it 3 times? We can say it once. How many times the Prophet say it? Which one do we have to do? Bare minimum. I don't like to use that term bare minimum like it's the salat. So not like that, but let's just say at the least requirement what we need to do for the salat to be valid. Because not intentionally that a person would not raise their hands, but somebody might not. They might not know. They might be rushing. Things happen. I know a brother one time he was rushing and he didn't even recite al-Fatiha. He was leading the salat and didn't even recite al-Fatiha. He went right into a surah. We human. His brain was somewhere else, and you know what I'm saying?
All right, since we went there, I want to go there too. So I gotta ask. I was going to hold off, so I gotta ask. So with Prophet said, "Pray for you." Pray, isn't that a command though?
Yes.
Who will lift it?
But we'll lift what?
Like it being a command, because like when you say this, when he raised his hand, that was in the hadith as a command. So like, what lifts that from not being doing a raising the hand?
Allahu A'lam. But generally, what lift commands is other actions from the Prophet ﷺ where he didn't do what he commanded us to do, generally. So generally, the Prophet ﷺ could command us to do something, then he himself didn't do it all the time. So what does that mean? That means that command is not 100% a command, but it's better to do it. Because there's no way that the Prophet ﷺ is going to command us to do something and then him not do it. Nothing contradicts itself in our deen, but it's about our ilm, our knowledge. To my knowledge, I'm not sure. But remind me so we can for next week, inshallah. Also, since you brought that up, how many pillars are there? 14. And this is just for information, y'all. The ulama agree on ijma'an, about 7. So some books might not say it's 14. Some might not say it's 14. Some might not see it to be a pillar. All right. But we don't do that when we come to books like this. You don't get into khilaf and right. That's once you reach another level, you delve into that. If you learn like that, a bunch of differences, it's going to be difficult to retain anything. طيب. طيب. It says الركن الثالث, the third pillar, قراءة الفاتحة, وهي أعظم سورة في القرآن. وقراءتها ركن في كل صلاة بل في كل ركعة من ركعات الصلاة. The third pillar is reciting Al-Fatiha, which is the greatest surah in the Quran, and reading it is a pillar in every salat, not just in every salat, in every rak'ah. In every rak'ah that the Al-Fatiha has to be recited. And this is why we read it 17 times a day at least. At least for the obligatory prayers, 17 times throughout the day. And the benefits of Al-Fatiha are very long, mashallah. طيب. The ulama get so detailed about Al-Fatiha, y'all, is that they specify how many shaddas are in Al-Fatiha. How many shaddas are in Al-Fatiha? 11 shaddas in Al-Fatiha. Because who doesn't know what a shadda is? A shadda. Everybody else know what a shadda is? طيب. Shadda is a vowel, one of the vowels in the Arabic language. And it doubles the letter. It makes it 2 letters there, and that point to 1 letter. And when that happens, the meanings can change the words and all that kind of stuff. The meanings change, and it could be a big issue. So what happens if a person's reading Al-Fatiha and they hit 8 out of the 11 shaddas? Is that Al-Fatiha that Allah revealed? Allah revealed Al-Fatiha what? How many? 11. A person does 9 out of the 11. You see the importance of learning Al-Fatiha? So what if the Imam only reads 9 out of the 11? If nobody is behind the nose. Huh? Everybody see the picture? The Imam is 11 shaddas in Al-Fatiha. The Imam leads the Salat, and he pronounces maybe 8 out of 11, or even 9, or even 10. Right? That means he missed something. He missed something from Al-Fatiha. Nobody behind him knows. What do they do in that case? Is the Salat valid or what? He might have been the best one to recite. Jayid, he might have been the best one there. If he's the best one there, one thing we're not going to do, we're not going to all sit around and not pray. I don't know Al-Fatiha. I don't know. The best person from amongst whoever is there That's my bad. That's my bad. Huh? Hold up, my bad. Are you going to be able to, or is the person going to know what you're even talking about? You got to know. Everything is. You got general rules, y'all, but we have to put them in proper place when it comes to real life situations. Because one time I was a brother, he was standing, he was correcting him and correcting him and correcting him. The brother didn't know what he was correcting him for, so he kept doing what he was doing. And the whole salat, he correcting him and correcting him and correcting him. Second rak'ah, he do the same thing. After the salat, they looking at the brother like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Everybody got to hear you correcting him the whole salat. The man that you correcting doesn't understand what you're correcting him on. You see what I'm saying? So you got to gauge the person. If you know the person in front of you, you know them. Maybe they made a mistake, and you have to correct them. You know, if you correct them, they're going to understand. But what if you know, I don't even know the person? If I correct them, maybe you correct them once, he don't get it. Khalas. If it's a mistake that bad, pray over. You don't got to say, yo, the man made a mistake in Al-Fatiha. That John don't count. I'm going over here to pray too. Anybody want to come with me? I'm over here. It might sound crazy. We in Philly. I'm going over here and offer again. You know what I'm saying? Anybody who want to pray over with me, I'm gonna go over here and pray again because the imam made a mistake and salat don't count. Call it a comment. Sound y'all laughing? They laughing, Sheikh. They laughing. Call it a comment. Yeah. So it doesn't have to go that far. Be disrespectful and totally done. Astaghfirullah, man. Astaghfirullah. We don't have to go that far. Either the person knows or they don't know. If they don't know, you got to use wisdom. If I correct them, let me see. Let me tell. But no, all right, cool. He don't know. Cool. Let it ride. You don't throw everybody else off because maybe it's possible you're the only one that knows. So everybody else is fine praying behind them. And if they are, alhamdulillah, let them pray. Pray their salat, their wajib. If you can talk to them, talk to them. If you can't talk to them, just pray. Pray again. You don't want to make a whole fitna on everybody based off something that, you know what I'm saying, well, he was saying in the class. He said if you don't do all these shadda, then the salat is invalid. Yes.
I mean, what I'm saying is like, that happened. I ain't got the best passion resuscitation, but like I heard somebody, their voice sounded beautiful though.
Yeah.
That throws people off. Like, oh, I can't even pronounce it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
They use different Quran. You don't know that. You might think that they make a mistake.
That's on the imam.
No, I'm saying with people.
That's when the imam, if the imam is leading the salah, he reads a different qira'ah. He should alert the people that I'm reading a different qira'ah. It's better. So, like you're saying, so no, I don't get thrown off. I thought he made a mistake. That happened before. What happened before, Sheikh? The imam should alert the people. You're gonna read a different qira'ah, you should let the people know I'm gonna read something different, y'all. So if it sounds a little different, no need to be alarmed. Tell you. So Al-Fatiha. The discussion itself is a long discussion, which should at least show us the importance of learning it and giving importance to qira'ah, recitation of the Quran, giving importance to tajweed, giving importance to being able to read the mushaf, giving importance to being able to, even if we can read it, to let somebody check us and perfect it and try to be right. The Prophet said, "Khayrukum man ta'allama al-Quran wa 'allama." The best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it. That's sunnah. We don't want to do that sunnah. That sunnah take work though. That sunnah takes work. It takes time, right? It's a grind. It's a lot of time, a lot of dedication, a lot of consistency, right? That sunnah may take a little more effort. Some other things are a lot easier. Smiling in your brother's face should be easy. It should be easy. For some of us, it's difficult, but it should be easy. For some of us, it's hard. But some things take a little more effort than others. The best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it. Allah understand. In my opinion, we got a lot of problems because we don't learn the book of Allah like that. We don't give it any importance like that. We don't, not like that. It'll be like, for us, it'll be nice. That'll be decent if I could learn something. But like, for real, like, set on a whole path to have my 4-year-old, like, set them up to be a hafiz. Because you know, Hafadh the Quran, y'all, people who learn the Quran, even when they children, they don't do it alone. It's not like they, you know, who takes them to the teacher? How many times a week they go into the teacher? The parents. Who contacts and make sure they following up with their lessons at home that they supposed to be memorizing for the next day? The parents. They go home, they get a lesson to memorize. The parents got to make sure they do it for the next day. Kids don't just become Hafadh the Quran just like they wake up and Allah, like it's some magical thing. Right? It's where it's a family thing, a whole thing in the house. The parents got to be involved. Now the issue, well, me and his mom not together. Well, there lies an issue. That's an issue because now you might be on that page and y'all might not be on the same page, or she's on that page and the husband's not on that page. It's going to be a little more difficult, but it could still happen. But it's not like it's just a kid thing. It takes the parents. That the parents got to be all in. That's if the parents see the benefit of it. If the parents hold it to be important. Because if the parents don't hold it to be important, the children ain't gonna hold it to be important. Right? If the parents don't see it to be important, man, when we was in Mecca, it was people, workers. They made sure. If they was walking around here with us, y'all, you wouldn't, the way we are, a lot of us, you wouldn't even probably give them salams. They don't look like they deaning enough. Some of us treat people like that. If they don't look like they practicing enough Islam, we won't talk to them. But they make sure they kids get the Quran class every day. They don't miss a class. If they have to hire somebody, they'll pay somebody to drive their child to Quran class every day. And that's a bill for the month. The driver. Who's the driver for? Make sure my kids get the Quran class 5 days a week. Important. It's important to them, right? It's important. Us, Allah forgive us and make us better. Allah forgive us and make us better. It would be decent if my son or my daughter could learn that. That would be decent. Like, that's all right. MashaAllah. That would be nice. But the urgency is not there like that. The urgency is not there. But it'll be decent. A lot of our urgency, we know what the urgency is for our children, a lot of us. The urgency is where? What else? Sports. We know the urgency at. Huh? Video games, right? Shoes. That's what the urgency is in those things. Specifically for real. And it's nothing, not saying that you can't play sports. But we see long term in sports, it might be a check at the end of it. It's possibly a check. Right? It's possible. It's probably a check at the end of it. I got 3 boys. Somebody got to come out. Like, we all tall. Allah Mustaan. We all tall. Somebody, you know what I'm saying? So up here mentally, it's like, okay, I can do sports 4 or 5 times a week, 3 hours at a time. Right? I can do 20 hours a week on sports. But when we had the children's weekend class, how long is the class? 3 hours. I don't know if he can sit for 3 hours. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get up here. All the excuses in the world because the urgency is not there. What's the benefit of my child memorizing the book of Allah? Like, what do I get out of it? We need to know. We need to know the benefit. Allah Akbar. It's a whole lot of benefit. But if we don't, the point being, if we don't know the benefit, there's no urgency to do it. But one thing for sure, 2 things for certain. I'm not saying it's not wrong with people playing sports. I'm just making a point. I know the benefit of my child going to one of them leagues, some big leagues. It's going to be a check. But we should be all right. For the, you know what I'm saying? We should be able to, alhamdulillah. Right? So the urgency, I see something, but a lot of times we haven't seen the result. It's not tangible to us. So when something is not tangible, it's difficult to, right, put it in perspective and see the importance of it. Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember I heard a while back that the person who memorizes the entire Quran will be able to intercede for 40 people. I don't know if that's correct.
It's a hadith.
please. I'm asking you if you ever.
Allah, I heard a lot of hadith reported about memorizing the Quran, and a lot of them were not authentic. Some of them were. That one specifically, I'm not sure about. Sheikh, you got anything on that? The hadith specifically? Allah.
Just something else that I heard about. Someone told me about a study that they did on the law, and they said that they found that the people who memorize Quran, none of them ever suffered from it.
MashaAllah.
I don't know the exact, like.
Does anybody here know any people memorize the whole Quran personally? You know why? Anybody else? No people that memorize the entire Quran? Like you know them personally?
He was young when he memorized Instagram, but he was memorized.
If you notice, the people who memorize Quran, Allah Allah, they have generally, just from my experience, they have very good adab. They behave, their behavior and their way they carry themselves is very, very good. MashaAllah. It's noticeable. They all carry that trait with them. Quran. So it's Allah's book. The words of Allah. It softens the heart. We hard, but we ain't memorizing that. We're not memorizing Allah's book. So yeah, we hard. You know what I'm saying? It's a general characteristic with a lot of them that they're soft, kind people. They have very good adab. Why do you think that is? That's Allah's book. Let's move on. I don't know what that is. That's the sister speaking. You gotta turn it the top one. Allah Mustaan. May Allah forgive us and make us better. And make us a people of the Quran. If we read the biographies of the Salaf, we see all of that is incorporated. They were people, all the way back to the Sahaba. They were people of the Quran, the Book of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ used to read in the Salat, right? He would read very long surah from the Quran, right? Especially in Ramadan, right? Sometimes they said in their race they had to lean on things in order not to fall over. Qira'ah. All of that comes from we have to have an urgency and respect for Allah's book, respect for learning it, reading it, opening it, making it a part of our daily lives like we do with other things.
I was going to ask, do you know of anything where a person should memorize a certain amount of ayat before they start to memorize hadith? Because the priority first is Quran.
How many verses from? Well, at the least, you know you need what as a Muslim? Al-Fatiha. You know you need that to pray. Many other stories of the Salaf, they would mention that when a person went to go learn hadith or some other science, the Sheikh would ask them, "Did you finish the Quran?" No, go finish the Quran and then come back and you can learn this. That's what the Salaf did. That's the example that we have left. Right? Go learn the Quran. And then when you've done that, come learn this. And I suffered in school. I had her father in my class, and we had tests, and you had the Udhkur al-ayah. You can't write, like in the hadith, you can write Qala sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or the hadith, and if you don't really know the wording, you can say, oh, kamakal, alayhi salatu wasalam. He says something like that. You can't do that with the ayat, with a verse from the Quran. You have to put the ayat nassan, as it is in the Quran. You can't summarize no ayat and like call Allah Ta'ala and then summarize in your own words. So it was verses where we had to write the dalil for something because all the dalil goes back to Quran. We had to write the verse. And I'm in one test, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to figure out, was it lan or la? Was it lan? And I'm trying to put together the meaning. I'm sitting there. It's in the Mahad al-Lugha. So I'm trying to get the verse, the meaning of the ayat, so I can try to figure out, should it be la or lan? Was it lam or lan? So I'm stuck. And I'm sitting there and I look up Hassan Rida. He's in my class. He's a Hafiz. I'm like, Dad, I know Hassan wrote Len Lem. Ahmed Saeed from Senegal, Hafiz, he know it. Dang, it's John crazy. Is it Len or Lem? Muhammad Yasser, Hafiz, he knows the eye for sure. Hassan Ghulam, Hafiz. You're gonna suffer. Talib ilm that didn't memorize the Quran is gonna suffer. Period, hands down. You're gonna suffer. And us, we suffering the same because the Quran softens the heart. And just from my opinion, knowing my people, what I know we deal with, we don't give enough importance to the Quran, and Allah knows best. Tayyib. Let alone, and the last thing we'll do today is the importance of in Al-Fatiha, knowing, as he says at the end of the section, he says, وَإِنَّ مِنَ الْأُمُورِ الْمُؤَسِّفَةِ الْمُؤْسِفَةِ أَنَّ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْعَوَامِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ يقرأ الفاتحة ولا يستشعر أن قوله اهدنا الصراط المستقيم دعاء. He said, unfortunately, a lot of the Muslims read Al-Fatiha 17 times a day, all day throughout the day, and they don't even pay attention that in Surah Al-Fatiha, it's a dua, that we make dua, the same dua. Oh Allah, guide us to the straight path. Oh Allah, guide us to the straight path. Oh Allah, guide us to the straight path. He said, and a person makes this dua every day, throughout the day, without even recognizing and understanding the meaning behind it, that this is a dua that we asking Allah for. So we should be sincere in our recitation and sincere in our dua when we make it. He says, وَأَنَّهُ بِهَذَا يَدْعُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ بِأَعْظَمِ أَمْرٍ وَأَجَلِّ مَطْلُوبٍ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ صِرَاطً مُسْتَقِيمًا. This is the greatest thing that a person can ask Allah for, is that Allah guide him to the straight path. So it's important that when we are reading Al-Fatiha and As-Salat, that we pay attention to the meaning. We pay attention to the meaning. That we just, all right, that's a pillar, I know I got to recite it. Okay, but what does it mean? We can't use the excuse we don't know Arabic. Oh, it's translated. There's books that have translated what each word means. It's possible to find out the meanings while we recite. Because we'll use the excuse, well, I don't really know Arabic like that, but I'm getting ready to start Arabic. So until you start, what you gonna do? Just keep reading and not know what it means? Huh? It's a way to find out what it means. So it's better, and it gives more to the prayer when you know what you're saying. It gives a whole lot more to the prayer when you know what you're saying. Allahu A'lam. We'll stop there unless there's any questions. Until next week, inshallah. Yes.
I have a question going back to them. Being in the pool, back up. Is it when the Imam says, or is it when you leave the position?
If the Imam is in, he said, when you catch the rak'at, the Imam is in ruku and he's coming up. Is as long as he's in the position of ruku. Because some people say they say Sami Allahu liman hamidah at different times. He could still be in ruku. Now the question is, well, I think he's going to get into that. What is considered ruku'? How do you know a person's in ruku' or not? As long as he's in the position of ruku', then you court the salat. But what happens, y'all, when you come to the salat, you trying to catch it, you go, he's in ruku', you go, Allahu Akbar, and you trying to get down to ruku', and you hear the Imam. Let's just say, sometimes you can see the Imam, and sometimes you can't see him. If you can't see him and he says, Sami Allahu liman hamidah, did you catch the rak'ah? You don't know if you caught it. So if you don't know if you caught it, do you consider yourself catching it or not? No. If you don't know if you caught it, the asl is you didn't catch it. The origin is that you were not in ruku' with the Imam. That's the origin. How are you going to put yourself and say, no, I had to catch it, I heard it. You're not even sure if you caught it, right? So the origin is you didn't catch it, which means you have to make up a rak'ah. So yeah, let's say you could see the Imam. You say Allahu Akbar, and you go to Allah, and the Imam is coming up. You going down, he's still down, but he coming up. Does that happen? That happens, right? So yeah, did you catch it or not? Huh? You know if you caught it or not, but sometimes you know you could, sometimes not, he was coming up. Sometimes you're unsure. If you're unsure, how can you say you caught it if you're unsure if you caught it? This is a pillar. For you to probably caught it. I'm gonna just go for it. And you didn't. The origin is that you didn't catch it. So the origin is that you didn't make ruku', not that you did make it. Originally, you didn't make ruku'. So for you to assume and say, you know, I'm gonna just say I made it. No, that's, you don't want to, for lack of better words, gamble with the prayer like that.
So now the question poses, when does the ruku' of the imam, when is he no longer in the ruku'? Is it when he begins to leave the position, or once he says, Sami Allahu liman hamidah?
Let me say that the ruku', a person is in ruku' as long as when they bend over, they're at a point where they can touch where do the hands go? The hands go on the knees. So as long as they're in a position where they can touch, they can, like, the hands can be on the knees. We're not talking about the back being straight, y'all. We're not talking about the back being straight, because the ruku' can be performed without a straight back. It's better for the back to be straight, but it's possible a person is in ruku' and their back is not straight. How do you know that? Are they able to touch their knees? If they're able to touch their knees, they're considered in ruku'. If they're able to touch their knees, they're in ruku'. If they're not able to touch their knees, they're no longer in the state of ruku'. That means to do all of that, you would have to be looking at the imam. And if you're looking at him and you can do all that and you're safe before Allah that's going to count, alhamdulillah. If you got some doubt about it, the origin is that you did not make ruku' with the imam. It's safer to make it up. Consider yourself you didn't make it.
So in the event that you're like, you can't see the imam, and you're trying to catch it. When you go into the ruku', it's also that if you hear him say it, you end up putting within ruku'.
You can't see him?
Obviously, you're looking down. Then you kind of look, there are a row or two behind. So that at that point is also that you listen out for
Well, the listening for the listening part is part of, knowing when to move and following the imam. As far as knowing if you quit the rak'ah or not, if you can't see the imam, if you're not sure that you were in ruku' with the imam, then consider yourself that you didn't make it. Because remember, the origin is that you came to the salat, you didn't have anything. You didn't have a takbiratul ihram, you didn't have a qiyam, you didn't have a fatiha. You came, you did those things, right? You have to do all of them. So when you come and the imam is in ruku' and you're not sure if you were ruku' or not, you can't just say, I was in it. No, did you make it with the imam or not? I'm not sure. Well, if you're not sure, then consider yourself as you didn't catch the rak'ah, as we said.
Say like it's Friday, June, and the salat was being led, right? But I was outside and I couldn't hear so much. So I heard most of the takbir in the system. But then as though, the salat wasn't that loud, like you couldn't really hear it all the way outside. Now on the last tasleem, right, and you sit and you wait and you can't hear anything. So say you salammed out after you couldn't hear nothing, you thought that you might have heard something, but a little time period passed, you salammed out. Then you looked up and you see that they salammed out right after you already did it. Is that invalid?
A person salammed out, a person's praying behind the imam. It don't matter where it was. It don't make it. A person's praying behind the imam. They couldn't hear the imam. And before the imam said, Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullah, before the imam salammed out, they salammed out. Right? I would pray over. I would pray. If that was Jummah, I would have prayed Dhuhr. If that was Jummah, I would have stood and prayed Dhuhr. I salammed out before the imam. Me personally, so I would have prayed Dhuhr.
That would be treated as if you like left the salat.
Yeah, you salammed out before the salat was over.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that because you couldn't see the man, you could see the people in the back. You seen somebody salam in the back because you couldn't hear. It's like a split second. Like say if I'm sitting there, you can't hear nothing. Sitting outside and praying. And then you said you didn't have the time, you said, you know, the dude is going to say, yeah. And you complete that. You wait to come to 51 here and talk out loud, but you couldn't. One year was real quick, still in there. So, like, figured at the time, then you slammed out, then I looked up, then I looked in the window, and then I seen somebody slam out. I didn't see you there. I just see somebody.
See, now you're adding different stuff, Shay. You can't do that.
Well, that's what I'm
You
saying.
can't, no. You can't say, because it's possible the person that you saw slammed out late.
That's kind of right.
You understand what I'm saying?
You couldn't see him, man.
See, that's different. I'm not going to say I would pray the Lord over that. But I'm going to tell you this. If I know I slammed out before the imam, if I know that, I will pray over. I will pray over. What you're talking about, that's a different situation. You saw somebody else. I know brothers, sometimes they slam out a little bit after the imam. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, if you're basing it on that, that's different because you don't really have anything substantial to show that the imam didn't salam out yet. That you saw somebody else salam out. What if he got to the salat late? You understand? If you know for sure you slammed out for the imam is one thing. If you don't know for sure, that's a different situation. That's a different situation.
Like to his example, the salat counts if you're following the imam, you can't hear, don't know if it's a shaitan.
What you mean? Can you see people?
Yeah.
You can see them?
No, you can see people. You can't hear them or you can't see anything.
Can you see the people following the imam? Tell you.
Follow people.
Yeah, if they following the imam.
I mean, yeah, but that get complicated though. 'Cause like this
Time out. Whether it get complicated or not is not the issue. No doubt it's complicated, but this is the issue. You're following, it's a jama'ah. Hold on, it's a jama'ah, right?
No.
It's people in the front, it's people in the back. Right?
What I mean by that, the floors though. Like you be on the floor.
That's what I'm saying.
My question is Jumu'ah's going on. I'm outside. You can't see in here unless you like inside the door.
Yeah.
And peeking on the side, people on the side.
Right.
So you can't hear that now. You can hear a takbir or something.
Yes.
Or when you recite because you bring on the mic.
Yes.
You hear that.
Yes.
But once if you got to hold the mic and you're doing,
Right.
you hear all that.
Right.
You get like finger. That's what
I'm with
I
you.
mean. And you only can see the first after you get up, then you see a person. So what you said is a different story.
I'm with you. This is the whole point. There's an imam leading the prayer. It's a first row. There are people there. It's a second row. There are people there. That's the benefit of being in the first row. The further back you get, the more complicated the situation. There's no way to get around that. Hopefully the speakers and everything working. If the speakers and everything is not working, if the speaker blows, the lights cut off, anything happens, who's in trouble? The people who can't see the imam. The people who can't see the musallin behind the imam. What are they supposed to do? It all depends. That's a case-by-case situation. Point being, if you can see the people praying behind the imam, you can follow them even if you can't hear the imam. That's okay. It's not like a condition in order to follow the imam, you have to hear him. You with me? In a specific situation, it depends. Me, if I knew I salammed out before the imam, I would pray over. If I knew for sure.
Question in that case that you mentioned, like where though you outside, you can't see, you hear him, but you don't know the position, you're not aware of what's going on, you're not sure of anything.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you just, that's what I think. Me personally, I would just talk to them in the prayer and just pray Lord after they was like afterwards by myself. Because at that point you playing with just a lot. You're risking it.
No doubt. I mean,
that's what I'm just saying. Would the safest bet to just be praying Lord?
It would be safer if you. This is the question. This is the bottom line, y'all. How can you follow the imam? The point of the salah, when we pray Jama'ah, you're following the imam. Like, you can't see him or hear him or see the people praying behind him. So how you gonna follow him? We're not talking about. All we're saying is how can you follow a person that you can't see, hear, or see the people following behind them? How are you gonna follow? How you gonna follow him?
You can't see them. You can't hear them.
You know, hold on the floor. You can't even see him. You follow him.
If the speakers are working, you can hear them. You outside, you can't see, you can't hear, and you can't see the people behind.
No, he's giving a scenario.
I'm giving a scenario, Sheikh. Bottom line, if that's the case, you can't see, you can't hear, you on your own, basically. Like sometimes that happens with the sisters, right? The speaker will go out, the imam not loud enough, they can't hear. Brothers don't want to talk into the mic when they lead the prayer and all that. Sisters can't hear. You responsible for everybody's salat behind you. They can't hear nothing you're saying because you're mumbling on the mic because you don't really want to lead the salat and all that mess. So now the sisters got to suffer. They can't even hear the person leading the salat. So now they get lost when you go down to the ruku because they can't hear you. Because you're just trying to, your heart about to bust out your chest because you're scared. Y'all know how it be when you first lead the salat. You be like, oh, right? So you so scared, you just trying to get it over with. But the people behind you are dependent on you to lead the prayer. Right? That's why we got to get used to being men in this situation and lead the prayer. You know what I'm saying? Because it's people dependent on us. Our sisters are dependent on us. When they come here to pray, they're dependent on us. Whether there's an imam there or not an imam there, the men, somebody's going to be the imam. Somebody. What you going to say? Well, what's the name ain't here? What we going to do? Pray. What you going to do? Who going to lead? That's on y'all to figure out. Well, I don't know who got the belt. Well, figure it out. Figure it out. You understand? Because it's people dependent on us. Yes.
Situation where
And we're going to start with you, Sean. Go ahead. I'm listening.
situation where Salat is in. It's not Salat. Man's not here, and people are ready to make Salat.
Uh-huh.
You know, you're saying try to figure it out. In that situation, you just throw anybody up there, or do you go up there yourself?
The people, the imam's not there to lead the salat. It's time to pray. Everybody's waiting. That's the importance, y'all. That's the importance, brothers, of being brothers. Knowing each other, knowing what we know and what we don't know. We still scared to let people know what we don't know. Some of us are better than others, y'all. Like it's normal. We human. Some of us know more than others. Some of us recite better than others. Some of us got better voices. Some of us not that good. Some of us better at certain things. But that's the benefit of being brothers and not everything just being Assalamu alaikum, kayfa halik, alhamdulillah. We got to know who's who. This one knows this. He's better than me. He's stronger than me at this. I don't know. He leads sometimes. That's the benefit of knowing that. If we don't know all of that, yeah, we shoot in the dark and somebody got to lead. That's just what we not like. Again, what we're not going to do is not pray. Somebody has to lead the salat. So it's better to be able to pinpoint people. If we can't pinpoint people, then somebody has to lead. But this is what I want to do, y'all. If you know you already learned some Quran, you learned some Quran. Nobody knows. Everybody looking around. Lead the salat. Don't wait until the brother leading and he's not that good, then you're going to complain about it. Oh, man, he didn't really know how to recite. Well, you should have led. If he didn't know how to recite and you had some history or some experience, you should have led. He might be. Allah Musta'an. Allah Musta'an. See? Yeah. You don't want to look like you putting yourself. I asked the brother this in school one time. He was giving khutbahs when we were at school. And I said, man, subhanAllah, you be giving a khutbah? That's crazy, man. I'm cool. I'm like, how you do that? Like, how do you get up there with all the people staring at you? Because I don't even like people looking at me. How you all the people be? He said, man, listen. He said, you figure out that somebody has to do it. And if you keep putting it off on other people, they don't know. Somebody has to do it. Somebody got to do it. We men, like Islam, Deen, the men have been designated with certain responsibilities. Right now, if the adhan came in, I probably could count maybe all the brothers in here, maybe 4 might stand up to lead to call the adhan, like with voluntarily. Voluntarily. It's time to call the adhan. Everybody got to make wudu and all kinds of stuff. Everybody, phones going off. Dang, hold on, think about it. You know what I'm saying? But Islamically, we have responsibility that's not on the sisters. We got to do it. Yeah, the imam not here. Okay. There's other Muslim men here. Somebody lead the salah. Well, who knows? I don't know who knows. Who's there? And especially the problem is if it's the same brothers here and we don't know who knows, that's a problem. That's not like regular. That's not like okay, y'all. We pray together all the time and nobody knows who knows what. We talk to each other, but nobody knows who really knows. Let's really get into it. Like we used to do 20 years, 15 years ago. Sit down in the masjid and read Quran. Sit down, everybody get a mushaf and read Quran. Just read. Pick up the book. You read a half a page, and you read a half a page, and you read a half a page, and you read it. Then you say, what? Well, I can't read Arabic. Ah, okay. So now we know, alhamdulillah, as a community, we know, as a group of men in the masjid, when it's time to pray, we know where you stand. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And then we say, okay, the brothers who are reading, okay, if you're reading amongst people, some people are more skilled than others. We get to see who's who. We scared. A lot of us are scared of that. A lot of us are scared. You're going to find out that I don't really know what you thought I knew. I can't really read how you thought I could read. A lot of us are scared of that. But in reality, that's being brothers. That's like brotherhood. Brothers know their weaknesses in each other. There's no way all of us just 100% everywhere. We just, no, there's some weaknesses. And we don't want people to know them. But brothers, people that are close, right, they know weaknesses of each other. Not that you expose your sins, but yeah, I'm not that I'm not that good of a reciter. He is. She is. She's better than me in this. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But the only way you figure that out is by sitting together, talking, actually pull a book out. Let me hear you read this ayah. Oh, I don't know that, John. You don't know that? Hey, I thought you knew that. No, I don't know that. Oh, all right. Well, do you know this? I don't know that either. What do you know? There's nothing wrong with that. We used to sit down in a circle and read. I went to a circle one time, brother said, come read with us. I said, well, I can't read. No, you can read. I just learned how to read Arabic. Just sit. I'm like, dang. I sit down with the brothers, they read. I'm like, oh my God. My heart pounding. I'm hoping they stop before it get to me. But it came around to me. I'm like, dang. I couldn't even see the page. I was so scared. Blur my eyes was like, I'm like, yo. I read like one line. Sweating. I looked up. They like, mashallah. I'm like, nah. Because they was reading. But at least at that point, I know, okay, if he's around or he's around, they're before me. I'm cool. They're before me. So I got at least 6 people ahead of me. So when it's time to lead the salat, I'm looking for y'all 6. You understand what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with it. That's how we get to the point where we know who's who. If we don't do that kind of stuff, which is not a check type of thing, to check where you at. But how we think we're supposed to know who knows what amongst us? Or we just assume, we look at people, you got a thobe on, you got a zazar. Are we judging people by that? We're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. Allah forgive us and make us stronger and better. Make us a people who are serious about learning this book and implementing this book and following the way of the Sahaba, that they will learn the Quran and its meanings. They will learn what it meant also. They will perfect the recitation of verses, and then also with that, what the verses meant. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa baraka nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.